It's been 4 days since the US and Israel launched airstrikes that killed the Iranian supreme leader. Since then, we know at least 6 US service members died, and Trump is now panicking that Iran has not accepted a ceasefire deal. That's because Trump knows he's responsible for whatever's next. The Pentagon confirmed to members of Congress that there's no evidence that Iran was planning any attack against the US. Now, this war is bigger than people probably understand at the moment. And I'm going to break down exactly what's happening up until the moment of me recording this, why the US is even in this war, and what does this mean for US citizens? Because, like I said, this is a very big deal. We already seen US troops killed, but there's going to be a lot more troops killed. And this war will last for a decent amount of time, regardless of what Trump, 4 or 5 weeks. You can't predict how long a war is going to last. I want to pause for a second and ask everybody to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Politics with Steve, and sign up for my email list. Link is below. That's the best way to stay in the loop on all things Politics with Steve. Now let's get back to it. Like I said, Trump is panicking because he thought taking out the Ayatollah would lead to Iran being ready to negotiate. Now, he clearly don't understand politics in Iran, the Iranian military, or anything like that. But Trump is panicking because he didn't want this to be a long war. He got used to what happened in Venezuela. When Russia first invaded Ukraine, they thought it was going to be a real quick thing. And, now we over 4 years of that war. So Trump didn't want a prolonged war. Whether or not the United States win that prolonged war, the casualties that the United States is going to take, Trump understands that the U.S. population got no appetite for that. And if we recall, Trump was reportedly told by a high-ranking military official that the United States is not ready for a sustained war in Iran. That could mean a lot of things. That could mean that we didn't have weapons ready or munitions, equipments, personnel in the right places, whatever. But a high-ranking military official said that. Why? Because Iran is a country with almost 93 million people, and a significant amount of that population is young people under the age of 35, fighting age. That's not a country you want to go to war with by choice. They can inflict significant damage on the United States. Like I said, they are not Venezuela. Their military is strong and advanced. They were actually selling drones to Russia as part of their illegal war against Ukraine. First of all, why is the United States even in this war? Nothing Trump is saying makes sense. He's the president of the United States. He needs to explain clearly what the fuck is the purpose of this war. I mean, we need to understand the purpose, to understand how long the war should be, to understand, how the war should be fought, and things like that. I think that Trump is intentionally not telling us the objectives of the war. So we don't have a real clear metric to judge the outcome. I mean, think about it. If the objectives of the war is regime change, we understand clearly what exactly we should see to judge the outcome of the war. If the purpose is to take away their ballistic missiles or nuclear capabilities, we understand that if they are left with nuclear capabilities, then the war was a failure. So I think that this is just a way for him to muddy the water of the results of this war with Iran. So let's talk about why is this war happening. First, Trump told us that this war was to stop Iran from ever getting a nuclear weapon. He said at the State of the Union, he will do anything to stop Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Just yesterday, he claimed that Iran was 2 weeks away from producing a nuclear weapon. Even if that claim is true, that means that Trump lied to us about Operation Midnight Hammer. I mean, he said that operation in which the United States launched strikes on Iran's Fordo nuclear facility, y'all remember last June, where the United States military dropped those 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs, those ordnance penetrators, that burrowed into the ground and allegedly destroyed Iran's nuclear facility and pushed back their nuclear program for a very long time. If that was the case, how are they 2 weeks away from developing any nuclear bomb? Either he lied then or he's lying now. And up until this war started, the United States was negotiating with Iran on coming up with a deal to prevent them from ever acquiring a nuclear weapon. But this is the thing. The exact deal the United States is trying to get Iran to sign is basically the same deal that Obama got Iran to sign, the Iran nuclear deal that Trump tore up for no good reason, just because Obama got it signed. And that deal worked. It had a lot of things in place to make sure that Iran stayed compliant. The deal had restrictions on the amount of enriched uranium Iran could have. It also had mechanisms for inspections to take place of their nuclear facilities. And again, we had a deal to stop Iran from ever acquiring a nuclear weapon. Now, the first thing we heard from Trump in the speech he gave after he launched his war on Iran was that his objectives was regime change. He then walked that back. But here's the thing, a regime change is more than just one person. The Venezuelan regime did not change because Maduro left. His vice president is there. Understand this, Trump is a dummy. He has no idea what a regime change even means or how it's done. First of all, killing the leader of a regime is not a regime change. That will not stop anything. They got several layers of a contingency plan. Even the CIA confirmed this. Let me give y'all an example. Trump's term is up in 2028, right? If he was to leave office before 2028, then his VP is taking a job. That's not a regime change. It is the same administration. Now, we also seen Trump claiming that Iran helped rig the 2020 and 2024 election against him. So it seems like he was using that as a justification for this. Like I said, his reasoning been all over the place. But Iran retaliated immediately by attacking all countries in the region with any U.S. footprint. Now, that's another thing that's making Trump nervous. He can't contain this war. It's spreading so fast, it's already basically hit the entire region. Like I said, Iran is attacking all U.S. allies in the region. And if you can't protect your allies, they gonna think twice about cooperating with you next time. I mean, just look at Dubai, they getting it bad. So Trump put U.S. soldiers' lives at risk, really just to avoid this Epstein fallout and honestly to protect Benjamin Netanyahu from his corruption case. For people that don't know, Benjamin Netanyahu is very unpopular within his own country. He's also being prosecuted for corruption. And as long as his country is fighting any sort of war or he's got some sort of case like that, it prolongs and delays justice from being brought to Benjamin Netanyahu. Remember, within the Epstein files, there's a document saying that Trump is compromised by Israel and that Jared Kushner is really the person calling the shots. Now, this information came from a spy that the FBI has deemed credible. But if you just honestly look at what's going on, that is exactly what it looks like. It looks like Trump is compromised by Israel. It looks like Trump is using the U.S. military as basically henchmen for Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu met Trump, I think it was February 11th, and he even said that he wanted to keep Trump on a war footing with Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu went on Fox News, I think it was yesterday, maybe it was the day before yesterday. He was talking about how the United States did the right thing in going to war with Iran. He's been trying to convince American presidents forever to go to war with Iran. Trump is just the only president dumb enough to really do it for Benjamin Netanyahu. By the way, Trump is using the same playbook that he accused Obama of using, being unpopular and then launching an illegal war against Iran just to kind of unite the country. Y'all remember he said that?
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage.
Literally everything he said applies to him. Extremely unpopular, started a war with Iran. You know, Obama got a deal signed, the Iran nuclear deal. You know, he talking about he's more militaristic. Dude, you dodged military service claiming that you had bone spurs. What are you talking about? A lot of people are wondering, what does this news mean for people living within the United States? How does this affect us? And what the fuck is going to happen, right? The great news is, and I say great news, Iran does not have missile capabilities to strike the mainland of the United States, but they do have sleeper cells within the United States. Sleeper cells are people that work for the Iranian government, but they are embedded in the United States. They embedded it all into our society. They disguised as teachers and stuff like that. But as soon as they called upon to act by the Iranian government, they will act. They will carry out terrorist attacks. They will do any sort of spying or espionage that they called on to do. And it's very hard to, identify these people because, like I said, they did a very good job of embedding themselves deep into American society. That's why a lot of law enforcement agencies are, on high alert. I see in Washington, D.C., they got the Capitol Police and a lot of people on high alert for like sort of assassination attempts. I live in Chicago and we still had the CPD saying that they gonna be extremely vigilant. And by the way, everybody else need to, be aware and be safe because like I said, these sleeper agents are real. I don't know if the person that shot those people in Austin, Texas was a sleeper agent. I mean, he had property of Allah. He had a shirt on that said property of Allah. So it seems as if this could have something to do with it. But, obviously until a full investigation is done, I don't actually know that to be true. Another way this will affect us is anybody that plans to travel anywhere around the Middle East or anywhere else in the globe, honestly, be safe. Anybody with family in the U.S. military, I know I do, got a brother-in-law, you definitely want to pray for them and keep them in your thoughts. I know he just got deployed somewhere else. Also, this is going to send gas prices soaring. Iran has already announced that they was closing a major trading and shipping route that's used to transport oil from the Middle East all around the world. Again, all of this is completely unnecessary. All right, lastly, y'all know I always keep an eye on all of the money that's being made. Most of the times, I think other people was missing this stuff, but I know that these people are grifters, so I can't help but to notice. Like I said, it's probably my CPA brain, but I just got to point this stuff out for y'all. Now, TMZ reports that an attorney overheard an unidentified DC official casually bragging about the U.S.-Israeli airstrikes on Iran at a restaurant just 7 minutes after Trump approved Operation Epic Fury at 3:38 p.m. Eastern Time. That's obviously the operation that killed the Iranian supreme leader. Now, it's bad enough that the operation could have been compromised. U.S. troops could have been harmed. We hear a lot about how sloppy this administration is with protecting the troops. Pete Hegseth using unclassified apps. Trump is hosting military meetings and setting up fake war rooms at Mar-a-Lago, which is a luxury resort, like, using curtains. The man got maps of all U.S. troop locations in his freaking golf club. This is not a skiff. So yeah, obviously that's the obvious flaw in this, right? But I gotta talk to y'all about the money that's being made. So we know that a new Polymarket account placed a bet on when the US would drop bombs on Iran. Exactly 71 minutes before the first strike. They bet $87,000 and they won $515,000. But here's the thing, at least 6 other Polymarket accounts also profited $1.2 million by betting on the US military strikes in Iran. All of these accounts were new accounts, all created within hours and minutes of the actual strikes taking place. They had no prior betting history. Over 500 million total was bet in the United States that was tied to the Iranian war. This is exactly what we talked about with the Venezuelan operation, when we seen a Polymarket account was created to do nothing but take advantage of the fact that somebody had advanced knowledge that the US was going to capture Maduro. This stuff had to be done by people in Trump's inner circle. First of all, who has the money to just wager this amount, even if you did overhear this? Between Trump and his fake war room, charging all U.S. personnel and all of his Secret Service and their security to top dollar to be at Mar-a-Lago while he holding these unofficial war rooms out of his golf club, they also killing the betting market. Hey, this is just crazy. I had to throw that in there.